inspection of an honour guard. Was it really meant to have a navy look? The coat dress in off-white with a narrow pinstripe was very 1930s, tight at the waist and with padded shoulders. We thought she might be in uniform, but the RAF explained her title, Air Commodore, is very much an honorary one. But it did give her the excuse to have a good look round the base, one of the oldest active stations in Britain, with a record stretching back to the First World War. And after the formalities of the parade, it was clearly a relief for Her Highness to walk over and talk to the children, families of the servicemen, who'd waited flags at the ready for this moment. And it seems that poses of flowers may soon be replaced as royal gifts, since it was here a child's play school drawing which found its way into the princess's hand. A reminder perhaps of yesterday and Prince William's debut at nursery school. Until today, Princess Diana's interest in and knowledge of Harrier jump jets was probably limited. But the men and women of No. 1 Squadron RAF Wittering were soon to change all that, deciding their new Air Commodore should learn a lot more about their £10 million toys. In a pre-war hangar, they had laid on a display of guns, bombs, planes and souvenirs to show their guest, starting with the cockpit of a Harrier, where Flight Lieutenant Steve Fox spent a good 8 minutes explaining to the Princess the controls. At one point they shared a joke, which the Flight Lieutenant later explained.
She wanted to know whether the aircraft was a he or a she, you know, such as ships are often called she's and in that sort of fashion. I was a bit surprised at the question, in fact. I said it was an it, but the engine was sometimes called a she.
In the same hangar, No. 1 Squadron keep mementos of their past battle honours.
Like Wittering. It was her first visit to the station since being appointed Honorary Air Commodore in June, and she was keen to find out as much as she could about the base.
The Princess of Wales arrived in a Wessex helicopter from the Queen's flight for her 4-hour tour of RAF Wittering, known as the home of the Harrier jump jet. This was the first time she'd ever inspected a guard of honour, and she later admitted to having been nervous at the prospect. The Princess was wearing a tight off-white coat dress with a black pinstripe. Her hat seemed to owe more to the American Navy than the British Air Force. During the walkabout, a gift, a drawing from one 3-year-old to another, which the Princess promised to deliver to her eldest son. And of course, there was much interest in the babies and small children. The object of the visit was to show the Princess the station's operational role, and she went on to see the Harriers in more detail. Proof of No. 1 Squadron's success in helping to repossess the Falklands, this Argentinian anti-aircraft gun recovered from Port Stanley. And the sign put up by the Argentinians after they'd taken over the airfield. The Princess got a pilot's eye view of the aircraft as she was shown the cockpit by the squadron's flying instructor, Flight Lieutenant Steve Fox. On another Harrier, the undercarriage was demonstrated, and again the Princess appeared both interested and knowledgeable. Then there was one rather unexpected question.
Yes, one of the questions she asked, which surprised me in fact, was is the aircraft a he or a she?
What was your reply?
Well, I said, I was taken aback, and I said, well, it's an it, but we do call the engine a she. The engine's called a Pegasus engine, flying horse, and we do call that a she.
A report there from Wittering by Julia Boone. Emma?
It was the Princess's first visit since her appointment as Honorary Air Commodore. She arrived aboard a Wessex helicopter of the Queen's flight to be greeted by the station commander, Group Captain Peter Millar, and a 100-strong Guard of Honour. Wearing a double-breasted pinstripe dress, the Princess had something of a nautical look about her as she made the traditional inspection of the Guard. The crowds were out in force, with hundreds of children, many waving Union Jacks. And, as usual, the Princess had a word for even the smallest. Once inside the hangar, the Princess was shown a Harrier jump jet, one of the veterans of the Falklands campaign. She seemed particularly interested in the workings of the cockpit, but Flight Lieutenant Fox revealed she'd actually wanted to know whether the aircraft was a he or a she. The Princess went on to lunch in the officers' mess before leaving later in the afternoon.